afternoon, everybody, on this rather April day, I guess. With all of the rain and what we've all been expecting to come in this lockdown. The difference between the sunshine and the rainy days for everybody is quite extraordinary, one way or another. Well, today's concert, I guess, we're week 6 of the concerts. 6 concerts to catch up on if you haven't already seen them on YouTube. And it's starting to bite a little bit in terms of being able to, to see our friends and see our family and give everybody the hugs that we're so used to giving and all of those lovely things. So I thought we'd play a little bit of Chopin and go through Chopin's life a little bit to sort of potentially brighten the mood and give you an experience of something else on this rather dreary Thursday in England. For everybody else in the rest of the world, no doubt it's beautifully sunny, but we're struggling with a grey day today. So Chopin, born in 1810 in Poland, dying in Paris in 1849. The very young age of 39. I guess older than Jesus to die at 39, but still very much, so much to give compositionally, and a very short lifetime that was sort of plagued with illness and bad health and lung trouble and what they think is tuberculosis and all of these things, and trying to spend time in warmer climes and then coming back and all getting the better of him, sadly. But in those 39 years of his life, my goodness, what an output he gave for all of us pianists out there. Predominantly wrote piano music, a few splatterings of cello pieces and some songs and things like that along the way, but mostly all piano. The first couple of pieces I'm going to play today are in the same key, the key of C sharp minor. Now we're very familiar with this piece in C sharp minor. Yep, very classically Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. There's lots of sort of written explanations about the similarities and structure between the Moonlight Sonata and the first piece I'm going to play, which you can read up about. But it's interesting how different keys affect our emotions, and different sonorities are ones that we sort of go back to. I know as a child I was very drawn towards D flat major, C sharp minor. I suspect that a lot of pianists that write compositions, they're sort of drawn to certain keys, and they give a different type of colour. Now, one of the things that I personally think is that I can sort of tell sometimes when composers have got perfect pitch, because they shift from one key to another so seamlessly and give these different colours, and it really feels to me like he had perfect pitch and each colour had a sort of warmth and a sonority to it. And the C sharp minor, we know about Beethoven, for example. E flat minor was his heroic key in the Emperor. And then we also have his C minor, the key of fate. These sort of iconic works, really showing that sort of hero and the fate and all of those sort of things. But C sharp minor and D flat major, it's very close tonic major and minor, was a real key of beauty and sonority and passion and all of these wonderful things. So we're going to hear a lot about that. I thought I'd fittingly play a piece by Chopin in D flat major. No prizes for guessing this one. So obviously the Raindrop Prelude. I'm not playing that today, but in the same key, that D flat major, and then he moves into the minor. So that sort of that shift from into D flat major to C sharp minor and back again, with the piece I'm going to play, the Fancy Impromptu, written in 1834. It does it the other way around, so it starts off in the minor. And then it goes into the major. So you get that sort of shift, you know, that sort of dark C sharp minor, and then suddenly the sort of sun comes out in D flat major. And you get that shift in that. The next piece I'm going to play is the C sharp minor prelude by Chopin again, obviously, and this was written in 1834, and it's a prelude, but it's not part of the main set of 24 preludes that he wrote in Opus 28, and when he was in Mallorca with his having this rather elaborate affair with the very, very sort of iconic French writer Georges Sand, who, you know, they sort of went off to Mallorca and had a rather interesting time in the sunshine. And the preludes come from that time, but this last prelude that's put on the end in C sharp minor has got such a sort of woeful story to tell. You sort of hear in the opening this large, expansive left hand. And it's almost like Chopin in his 24 preludes went through every key, major and minor, and it's almost in this last one that he just decides to go through every key and every different type of colour that you can really feel. I wanted to go back a little bit to the Fancy Impromptu and share something which I find really, really fascinating, and I know my students will enjoy the irony of this, because one of the things as pianists that we have to do is do one rhythm in one hand and another rhythm in another hand, all at the same time, seamlessly, and create a melody on top. And, you know, we sort of talk about two beats against 3 beats, which we would say is a nice cup of tea. So you get that, but then 4 beats against 3 beats, a little bit harder to do. So you get that sort of idea of going from 2 against 3 and 4 against 3. 4 against 3 is obviously harder, and you hear it in the Fancy Impromptu. He starts with the 3 in the left hand, and then magically you just have to put your 4s over the top. So here are the 3s. And then here are the 4s. So then when you put the 2 together, you get that sort of, that rather delicious effect of not quite being able to tell what the rhythm is, because it's so complex, it's just knitted in there so deeply. Chopin was an absolute legend at doing this, and there's lots and lots of letters and articles about how he kept the pulse going so beautifully in the left hand, and then the right hand just seemed to play all of these notes on top, and he really, really coined this idea of sort of multi rhythms happening all at the same time. So right towards the end of his life in 1846, he wrote the Barcarolle. It was one of his last major piano compositions that he was to write. And a Barcarolle is, you know, we're imagining the gondoliers of Venice just gently bobbing along on the waves. It's usually in a 6/8 tempo, or a sort of like a 12/8 as it is in this, and it's just gently sort of bobbing along. You can hear that in the left hand. So you can hear all of that sort of that bobbing along, and what he does, it's almost like he explores all of his previous compositions and put little snippets of nocturnes, little snippets of polonaises, little snippets of waltzes into this one fantastic composition that's through composed and just goes seamlessly all the way through to the end. Well, that's a sort of brief overview of Chopin. Again, born in Poland, died in Paris. His body was buried in Paris, and his heart was sent back to Poland, as was the case back in that time. So, you know, he very much a foot in both camps of two different countries, and lots of personal influence to do with uprisings in Poland and the sort of the cultural hotspot that Paris was and is at that time. So a little bit of a mixture for you, but hopefully you're going to like the Chopin Fantasy Impromptu, the first one, then the C# minor prelude right at the end of the book of the preludes, and not in the main set of the 24 preludes, and then Chopin's Barcarolle, written right at the end of his life. So, with a very different ending with the Barcarolle and very near to the end of Chopin's life, a little bit of a glimpse of the works of Chopin, all the way through his sort of preludes and his fantasies and his Barcarolle. Next week, we're going to go back even further in history again and cover one of the iconic works of Beethoven, one of his late sonatas, and talk a little bit about how the sonata evolved throughout Beethoven's lifetime. So do join us if you can. Lovely to sort of virtually see you all. I know you're all there with lots of lovely messages and things that I get afterwards. So thank you for your support, and I hope a little bit of Chopin brought some sunshine to this rainy day. Thank you very much. Bye bye.